Good morning once again. I requested for this stakeout, which, as you know, is not usual for me. Normally, I do it after meetings, but I thought it would be appropriate to brief you on an important issue. As you know, France and Mexico came with a humanitarian resolution on the situation in Ukraine. It has been already more than a week that they introduced the initial draft, and we said from the very beginning that we would be prepared to adopt a humanitarian resolution on the situation in Ukraine, provided that this is not a disguise to blame and shame Russia again. We had a few rounds of expert consultations. I know that co-sponsors were holding separate consultations with the members of the Security Council. They knew clearly, they knew from the very start, we said that there are paragraphs in the resolution which are not humanitarian, and they should not be in the resolution of the humanitarian situation. Yesterday, under the title of breaking news, we learned that the French and Mexican ambassadors came to you and announced that instead of the Security Council, they will move this resolution to the General Assembly, which is not standard practice, as you all know, but they were citing the inability to adopt this resolution in the Council because of Russia. As I said, we made it clear that we would be prepared to adopt a humanitarian resolution. So I think that the chances are still there, and that's why we will put forward our own draft, which is humanitarian, and we will put it into the blue shortly, and we'll see whether the Security Council can or cannot fulfill its mission to adopt a resolution which will be on the humanitarian situation in Ukraine with clear humanitarian provision like call for negotiated ceasefire, evacuation of civilians, respect of international humanitarian and human rights law, condemnation of attacks against civilians and civilian objects, safe and unhindered passage, unhindered access of humanitarian assistance, etc. So I wanted to advise you in advance before we came forward, and as I said, will be shortly.
Ambassador, will you take questions, sir? Thank you. Thank you, sir. Eric Shawn, Fox News. Ambassador, when will Vladimir Putin stop his war crimes? When will you stop this obscene assault against Ukraine? And will Vladimir Putin surrender?
And what?
Will Vladimir Putin
I
surrender?
heard the first part. And what's surrender what?
Surrender your assault and barbaric war against Ukraine. Will you stop in the sake of humanity?
When the goals of the special military operations are achieved, it will stop. It was announced from the very beginning. I must tell you that I appreciate your humane approach, but I didn't see that humane approach. In all these 8 years, when Ukrainian forces, Ukrainian armed forces and radicals were shelling and bombing Donetsk and Lugansk without any reproach, basically any reproach from the international community, from the no comments from the UN officials on that issue. Yesterday there was a barbaric attack of the Ukrainian armed forces who used cluster munitions in which Russia is accused from based on sources which cannot be identified. But they used the cluster munition in the center of Donetsk. 21 persons died, 30 plus wounded. No comments. I was looking through news, including Western media today. I didn't come across a single article on that barbaric attack. Yesterday, Secretary General made a stakeout. He didn't say a word on that attack. Only when asked a question, he said that if that was deliberate, it is condemnable. I must tell you that we are very much concerned how UN officials, including the top ones, including the Secretary General, including Under Secretary General Rosemary DiCarlo, are assessing the situation in Ukraine, accusing Russia of indiscriminate attacks. Secretary General yesterday said that although that attack is condemnable, the most of the destruction comes from the Russian sources, as if he was comparing two events and implying that that attack didn't deserve condemnation.
Ambassador, it's Pamela Falk from CBS News, as you know. My question is about a ceasefire. What would it take for Russia to have an overall, not just humanitarian ceasefire? What does Ukraine need to do? And what's in your resolution? What are you proposing on humanitarian corridors? Thank you.
I cited a few things obvious for a humanitarian resolution. You will see it soon, shortly, because it will be published.
For an overall ceasefire.
Negotiated ceasefire. Of course, it should be negotiated, and the ceasefire will take place when conditions that were put forward by Russia will be implemented, and they are very well known.
And could you just lay it out what those conditions are?
Demilitarization of Ukraine, denazification of Ukraine, no threat which would come from that territory, from that country to Russia, no joining NATO. President Zelensky announced just a few hours perhaps ago that he understands that Ukraine will not join NATO, citing in particular his disappointment with the way NATO reacted, but the goal of Ukraine joining NATO is in the Ukrainian constitution, so it should be dropped from there first and foremost. I think that's enough.
Question, Ambassador, on the parallels we hear, sir, between the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003. You've been very critical of the 2011 invasion attack on Libya led by NATO. Are there parallels between what the U.S. did in 2003 and the unilateral actions we are seeing from Russia, and the criticism that is being leveled against UN officials that are simply seeking to defend the UN Charter?
Every situation is unique, but I do not recall the level of outrage, hysterics that U.S. invasion of Iraq.
They tried to get Kofi Annan fired.
Sorry?
They tried to get Kofi Annan fired, so I would argue there were
no resolutions, nothing. If you remember, no resolution of the Security Council, nothing that would be comparable to what we're experiencing today. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ambassador, is Russia seeking help from China? Yes.
We are strategic partners with China. And we view the world and the situation in the world similarly.